Hi, good afternoon. This is Miss B, and welcome to B Academics. Today we are going to learn more about subject-verb agreement. We simplified the rules for everyone to understand it a lot simpler, a lot better. Okay, to start, let's just go for basic first. So what do we mean when we say subject-verb agreement? It means that the subjects and verbs must always agree in number. Not only does a verb change its form to tell time, but it also can change its form to indicate how many subjects it has. So that's basically the framework of what is subject-verb agreement. And we have to remember the following chart. So these are the first, second, and third person. In sentences, the first person would be I if it's singular. If it's plural, we, include yourself. Second person pronoun or subject is a singular or plural, always be you. And then third person for singular, as a singular subject is he or she, or the article the. And for plural, we could use they. All right, let's move on. So for the rule number 1, 2 or more subjects joined by and considered plural and require a verb form without an S. So when we use subjects that are in plural form, we will use a verb without an S. So for example, number 1, Jan, Jean, and Bob walk to the store. There are 3 people in here combined with the word and, so we use the verb without an S. Number 2 is Bob and his brothers walk to the store. So it's not just Bob, but also his brothers walk to the store. So any subjects that are joined by the word and, we consider this plural, and we're going to use a verb without an S. Number 2, if a subject is modified by the words each or every, subject is singular and will take a verb form that ends in S. For example, each boy and girl walks to the store. If a subject is modified by the words each or every, that means if you see each or every in subject, regardless of how many conjunction there is to that, how many subjects you feel that the sentence has, we will always use a verb that ends in S. Okay? If a plural subjects are joined by or, nor, or but, the verb must only agree with the subject that is closest to it, For example, number 1, either Bob or his brother walks to the store. The subject that's closest to the verb is brother, so we use the verb that's with an S, okay? Or some people call it a singular verb. Neither Bob nor his brothers walk to the store. So the subject that's closest to our verb here is brothers. So we use a base form of the verb or the verb without an S, walk. Number 3, not Bob, but his brothers walk to the store, same rules. And number 4, not Bob, but his brother walks to the store. Again, if plural subjects are joined by or, nor, or but, you check or you take a look at what subject is closest to your verb. And that is your indicator on what verb you'll be using, if it's with an S or without an S. Number 4, indefinite pronouns. These are usually singular and take a verb that ends in S. Everyone, everything, okay? We use the verb with an S. And then number 5, the subject of a verb is never in a prepositional or verbal phrase. Therefore, you must isolate the phrase and find the proper subject. Again, the subject of a verb is never in a prepositional or verbal phrase. Therefore, you must isolate the phrase and find the proper subject. Number 1, the mother duck with all her ducklings or with all her little ducklings walks to the store. The nearest subject is ducklings. But this time, we have to isolate the phrase. Take out the phrase. You cross the phrase out and you identify what's your main subject or your proper subject, and that would determine if you're going to use a verb with an S or without an S. So this time, the mother duck walks to the store. Same thing, number two, the mother duck, even if it's including, even if it's with all, it sounds confusing, but these phrases, you have to let go of this and exit out of your sentence, and you identify the main subject or the proper subject for you to determine what kind of verb you'll be using, if it's with an S or without an S. Okay. Number 6, some indefinite pronouns and nouns will be singular or plural depending on the object of the prepositional phrase. These words are always about number or amount, such as all, half, some, none, most, part, etc. For example, some of the students are gone. Some are gone. So you identify what's your indefinite pronouns or your noun, and that's what all you care about. Okay? Some of the students are gone. Why did we enclose the student? Are the students countable? If yes, you use plural. If the noun after your indefinite pronoun is not countable, some of the cake is gone. You use singular. Okay? Number 3, the mother duck and all of her ducklings walk to the store. The mother duck and all of her ducklings walk to the store. What's the difference of this sentence from the previous one? It is because of the word N. N. All right. Number 7, collective nouns. When a collective noun such as family, group, like committee or class is the subject, the verb will end in S. Okay, we take the S form of the verb for collective noun. For example, my family with all my crazy cousins always walks to the store. My family with all my crazy cousins always walks to the store. You just take out again the phrase. So take out that with all my crazy cousins. So my family always walks to the store. Okay. There are some nuisance parts of the sentence that most of the time you have to ignore when it comes to collective nouns. And these are the a few nouns, okay, such as economics, mumps, missiles, or news. The nouns that are ending in S but are considered singular. You can tell these S words are singular because if you take the S away, you don't have a noun, or the noun doesn't make sense. For example, economic and new are adjectives that describe a noun. Mump and missile just don't make any sense. Okay? So for example, economics is her favorite subject. Economics is her favorite subject. These are specialized nouns. Okay? Number 9, units of measurement. So when the subject is a unit of measurement of time, distance, money, weight, and more, the unit is considered singular and the verb will end in S, or we use the verb that ends in S. For example, 10 pounds of chocolate is too much to eat at once. 10 pounds of chocolate is too much to eat at once. 13 feet of kite string tangles very easily. 13 feet of kite string tangles very easily. When we talk about unit of measurement, the unit is considered singular and the verb will end in S. We use pounds and feet here. That's why we are using singular or verb ends with S. Okay, number 10, there or here. In a question or in a sentence that begins with there or here, the verb will often come before the subject. Where is my sweater? There are my sweaters. Where is my sweater? There are my sweaters. Okay. Number 11, verb agrees to the subject. The verb must agree only with the subject. Again, there are nuisance nouns in there, nuisance word that looks like a subject. So number one is you have to identify what's your subject first. Okay, so for example, the biggest problem we face is all the squirrels that have babies around here. So what are the nuisance here? Squirrels, rabies. But basically, what's our subject here? Problem. That's why we're using is. The biggest problem we face is all the squirrels that have rabies around here. All right. Number 12, gerunds. These are the verbs, okay, that ends in ing and act as a noun. So these are the gerunds or ing words. Can be subjects and follow all the same rules that we talked about. For example, running with ducks is my favorite sport. Running is my favorite sport. You take away the ducks, okay, because running here is a gerund. Number 2, running to the store and flying through the air are my favorite sports. So if we're going to eliminate the nuisance here, it just says running and flying are my favorite sports if you can fly. All right. Number 13, using who, that, or which. When using who, that, or which, you must look to the noun these relative pronouns are referring to in order to determine whether the subject is singular and will have a verb ending in S, or is plural and have a verb without an S. Again, when we use who, that, or which, when using these words, you must look to the noun these relative pronouns are referring to in order to determine whether the subject is singular and will have a verb ending in S, or if it's plural and have a verb without an S. For example, the girls who eat cake are happy. Number 2, the girl who eats cake is happy. Okay? Let us consider what these words, who, that, or which, are referring to. And then once we identify that, we can now make a decision on what kind of verb we're going to use. If it's with an S, okay, or without S. Now, words that can cause confusion with subject-verb agreement. Indefinite pronouns that always take a singular verb form. Anybody, either, neither, one, anyone, everybody, nobody, somebody, anything, everyone, no one, someone, each, everything, nothing, and something. These are very confusing, especially for Filipino learners. Why? Because we tend to translate. So for example, we say everyone. In Filipino, it's good as lahat. Okay? Do not translate if you're doing your exams or whatever, and it's a SVA or subject-verb agreement. Instead of translating the given examples from English to Filipino, I want you to analyze the sentences. Okay, analyze the sentence carefully without translating for you to avoid this kind of confusion. So do not translate, find your proper subject, and then after you find your subject or your proper subject, identify if your subject is plural or singular. After that, you will now determine the kind of verb that you'll use, if it's with an S or without an S. And then another one is the peculiar pronouns and nouns that can be singular or plural depending upon the context. Notice these are all referred to amount. All, most, some, none, half, or part. These are the peculiar pronouns. We have to understand the context before we proceed on identifying if it's a verb with an S or verb without an S. And next is the common prepositions. Remember, a subject never shows up in a prepositional phrases, but these phrases often come between a subject and its verb. About, above, across, after, among, or around. So these are the preposition. You do not look for your subject, okay, within your prepositional phrases. And then the common preposition: as, at, because of, before, behind, below, beneath, beside, between, by, during, except, for, from, in spite of, into, like, near, of, on, unto, over, past, through, till, to, towards, under, until, up upon, with, and without. Again, you do not find your subject in prepositional phrases. You X that and find your proper subject. And after you found your proper subject, you now identify the singularity or plurality of that subject. After that, you determine if you're going to use a verb without S or with S. All right. A pronoun agreement. So pronouns that take the place of a noun must be either plural or singular, just like the noun they represent. Again, when you use a pronoun instead of a noun, you do not change the number it represents, okay? Everyone has his or her own way of thinking, correct? That's a correct one. But when they say everyone has their own way of thinking, that's not incorrect, all right? All the rules of pronoun agreement are based on the rules of subject-verb agreement. You do not change the number of your noun just because you change the noun to pronoun. That's basically what this rule is all about. Pronouns must also agree in person. For example, I love the beach because I can get a good tan. That's correct. The I love the beach because I can get a good tan. There should always be a fluidity on your sentence, okay? The consistency of your sentences. Number two, I love the beach because you can get a good tan. That's incorrect. If you start with the pronoun I and it's you're talking about, you stick with it. Okay, this is a confusion with SVA or the PVA. These are actually the last one, the pronoun agreement. The pronouns must also agree in person. It's one of the biggest confusion whenever we do conversational English. Like, I love spicy food because you can get sweat out of there or whatever. So if you start with the I, okay, you end it with an I. So those are the rules and the things that we need to learn about subject-verb agreement. I made it simple, but if you have any question, write down below and I'll be more than happy to answer them for you. Again, thank you so much. My name is Miss B, and for more videos or for more lessons, anything that you would like us to talk about, you let us know in the comment section. We'll be more than happy to provide that for you or to help you out on your English or your academic problems. All right. Thank you so much and have a wonderful day. Bye now.